I'm Andy Skidmore, Tech Service Veterinarian for Lallemand Animal Nutrition. So I provide technical support for the products, inoculants and silage management, as well as some of the other products that Lallemand markets throughout the world. So this morning I presented on garbage in and garbage out as a presentation, follow-up of the two previous speakers. And basically my job is to present to you what happens when you don't do everything right. So, but first I want to just stress the whole issue of safety. It's a high priority for us, as it should be for each one of you. And just a quick review of some of the rules there are to keep a safe distance away from the face, which is a common mistake all of us make. Always have a buddy with you, never go into a silo face by yourself. And to fill the silo safely, maintain it carefully, and also the feed out is also very important. And when you inspect a silo, do so very cautiously. Our goal is that we want everybody to go home every day safely and to their families. So safety is first. So when we talk about feed preservation, if you look at this graph right here, you can see the dry matter basis on the x-axis or the y-axis going up and down there. The blue represents the water content, the yellow represents the dry matter content of any feed that we have. And if we want to preserve it, we either first take out the water, which results in dry grain and dry hay, or we have to take the air out, and there's nothing in between. So you can see the range of dry matters there. All of those require that we remove as much of the air as possible to get a good fermentation in order to preserve the nutrients that we put in there. So we can talk about silage contaminants, and primarily we can categorize those in three different categories: either undesirable organisms, or undesirable chemicals, and other fermentation products, byproducts that are the result of poor fermentation or poor control of fermentation when we put the feed into storage. Okay, but just as an example here of what can happen here on our losses, I wanted to make sure you understood this. And looking at a silo that has a surface area of 250 feet by 400 feet, and you get 21 inches of shrink, which I presented the data on, looking at that, a poorly managed or poorly covered pile, you can get 21 inches of shrink there. And if you look at a normal density, that represents 4,000 tons of corn silage with that kind of a surface area, which at today's market price represents $180,000 of loss of silage that just goes up into the air after you've put your hard work and sweat into it. Okay, so that's $180,000 lost. So the data that I presented then was looking at the incremental losses. The highest incremental loss in dry matter intake was in that first inclusion rate of 5% of that slime layer into the diet. And the other significant finding was in this particular study that I presented was that there was no fiber mat left in the rumen with a little bit of spoiled silage that was fed to the steers. And that's the whole reason we're feeding forage, is to do that. So when we talk about aerobic stability, which I did speak a little bit about, we need to inhibit the yeast growth because they love the lactic acid, which then increases pH and allows the molds to come in, which is what we see. So we got to stop the growth of yeast in there. Okay, this is a study that I presented the results from. 54 silos that were monitored in Italy, where I like this because it's something you can take home and do, where you take a 16-inch temperature depth on the middle of the face. That's your reference point, and you use that as a reference point. You measure all the other areas around it and look at the temperature differential there in order to measure the quality of silage and how well you put it in there. So you can read the proceedings and get the details on that. So our two main goals are rapid fermentation at the beginning and a good shelf life at the end, which all depends on how well you put it in. And another significant thing you need to take home is that forage quality cannot be improved through the ensiling process. It can only be decreased. So the quality it can only be preserved or destroyed, not improved. So garbage in, garbage out, and be safe.